section of this session, and then in the latter section of this seminar, we're going to be having a panel discussion where we're going to be hearing from the researchers who worked on this research, as well as recruitment experts, higher education experts, youth who have recently graduated, so we can really look at this problem from all angles. And just to tell you a little bit about why this report is important and what was our motivation to study this topic, it's because, as we all know, the GCC countries are witnessing really rapid transformation. Job markets are changing, technology is changing, we're having geopolitical uncertainty. So there's going to be so much that's going to be changing in the job market in the next few years. So we wanted to study how our education systems aligned with the employer needs and the realities of these shifting labor markets. And this is what we are hoping to attempt to answer today. We're going to be telling you what we found and also what are the recommendations we have. And now, next, I'm going to be introducing our director, Ms. Mahra Al-Mutawari, who's going to be talking a little bit more about why this topic is important, why we did this research, and then we will begin to start this seminar. Ms. Mahra, the floor is yours. Thank you.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أصحاب السعادة، السادة الخبراء والأكاديميين والباحثين، ممثلون مؤسسات التعليم العالي والقطاع الخاص، أبناؤنا وبناتنا الشباب، الحضور الكريم، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. يسعدنا أن نرحب بكم في لقاء جديد من سلسلة 90 دقيقة من المعرفة التربوية التي ينظمها المركز الإقليمي للتخطيط التربوي، وتمثل إحدى المبادرات الاستراتيجية لنقل المعرفة البحثية إلى صناع القرار والممارسين والباحثين، وتحويل نتائج الدراسات والأدلة العلمية إلى حوارات نوعية تدعم تطوير السياسات التعليمية وتعزز جاهزية الأنظمة لمتطلبات المستقبل. يأتي لقاءنا اليوم بعنوان وجهات نظر أصحاب العمل حول فجوات المهارات لدى خريجي دول مجلس التعاون، وهو موضوع لا يقتصر على التعليم العالي وحده، بل يرتبط ارتباط مباشرا بمستقبل التنمية الاقتصادية وتنافسية دولنا وقدرتها على بناء اقتصادات قائمة على المعرفة والابتكار والإنتاجية. فنحن لا نناقش اليوم قضية أكاديمية أو تعليمية فحسب، بل نتناول أحد أهم الأسئلة الاستراتيجية التي تشغل الحكومات وصناع القرار حول العالم: كيف نعد شبابنا لوظائف المستقبل؟ وكيف نضمن أن تتحول سنوات التعليم والاستثمار في رأس المال البشري إلى قيمة اقتصادية واجتماعية حقيقية؟ إن العالم يشهد اليوم تحولات غير مسبوقة في طبيعة العمل والوظائف والمهارات. فبحسب تقرير مستقبل الوظائف الصادر عن المنتدى الاقتصادي العالمي، من المتوقع أن تتغير نحو 39 من المهارات الأساسية المطلوبة في سوق العمل بحلول 2030. كما يتوقع أن يؤدي التحول الرقمي والذكاء الاصطناعي والأتمتة إلى إعادة تشكيل ملايين الوظائف وظهور أدوار مهنية جديدة لم تكن موجودة قبل سنوات. وتشير تقديرات صندوق النقد الدولي إلى أن الذكاء الاصطناعي سوف يؤثر بدرجات متفاوتة على نحو 40% من الوظائف عالمياً، وترتفع هذه النسبة إلى ما يقارب 60% في الاقتصادات المتقدمة. لكن الرسالة الأهم التي تؤكدها هذه التقارير ليست في أن الوظائف ستختفي، بل أن المهارات المطلوبة للنجاح ستتغير. فالمؤسسات اليوم تبحث عن خريجين يمتلكون القدرة على التفكير النقدي وحل المشكلات المعقدة والتعلم المستمر والعمل الجماعي والقدرة على توظيف الذكاء الاصطناعي والتقنيات الرقمية بصورة فعالة ومسؤولة. لذلك لم يعد السؤال ماذا يعرف الخريج، بل أصبح ماذا يستطيع أن يفعل بما يعرفه. وفي دول مجلس التعاون تتضاعف أهمية هذا التحدي في ظل الرؤى الوطنية الطموحة وبرامج التنويع الاقتصادي والتحول نحو اقتصاد المعرفة. فقد استثمرت حكومات المنطقة خلال العقود الماضية مليارات الدولارات في تطوير التعليم وتوسيع فرص الالتحاق بالتعليم العالي، وحققت إنجازات كبيرة في هذا المجال. إلا أن التحدي اليوم لم يعد في الوصول إلى التعليم، وإنما في ضمان موائمة مخرجاته مع احتياجات الاقتصادات وسوق العمل، وفي إعداد أجيال قادرة على قيادة التحول الاقتصادي والتكنولوجي الذي تشهده المنطقة. ومن هنا تأتي أهمية الدور الذي يطلع به المركز الإقليمي للتخطيط التربوي باعتباره مركزاً من مراكز الفئة الثانية تحت رعاية اليونسكو أسس في عام 2003 بموجب اتفاقية بين حكومة دولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة ومنظمة اليونسكو. فعلى مدى أكثر من عقدين عمل المركز على دعم الدول العربية ودول مجلس التعاون في مجالات التخطيط التربوي وتطوير السياسات التعليمية وبناء القيادات وتعزيز القدرات المؤسسية وإنتاج المعرفة والبحوث التي تسهم في دعم اتخاذ القرار القائم على الأدلة. وأنا أؤمن في المركز بأن المعرفة ليست منتج بحثي ينشر ويحفظ على الرفوف، بل أداة للتغيير والتطوير وصناعة المستقبل. لذا حرصنا خلال السنوات الماضية على إطلاق العديد من الدراسات والمشروعات البحثية التي تعالج القضايا الاستراتيجية ذات الأولوية للدول الأعضاء، وتوفر لصناع القرار بيانات وأدلة تساعدهم على تطوير السياسات والبرامج التعليمية بما يستجيب للتحولات العالمية والإقليمية. وتأتي الدراسة التي نناقش نتائجها اليوم في هذا السياق، حيث تمثل إحدى المبادرات البحثية النوعية التي قادها المركز لفهم العلاقة بين التعليم العالي وسوق العمل من منظورين متكاملين: منظور الشباب والخريجين ومنظور أصحاب العمل. وقد استندت هذه الدراسة إلى منهجية بحثية شاملة تضمنت الأدبيات والاتجاهات الدولية والإقليمية واستطلاع آراء أكثر من 2300 شاب وشابة من مختلف دول مجلس التعاون، إضافة إلى استطلاعات ومقابلات مخصصة مع أصحاب العمل والخبراء وممثلي القطاعات الاقتصادية المختلفة. وتكشف نتائج الدراسة عن رسائل مهمة ينبغي أن تستوقفنا جميعا. فبينما يواصل التعليم العالي تحقيق تقدم ملحوظ في المنطقة، ما تزال هناك فجوات قائمة بين المهارات التي يمتلكها الخريجون والمهارات التي يبحث عنها أصحاب العمل. وقد برزت مهارات التواصل والعمل الجماعي والتفكير النقدي والقدرة على التكيف وحل المشكلات والمهارات الرقمية باعتبارها من أكثر المجالات التي تحتاج تعزيز. وهذه ليست مجرد ملاحظات فنية، بل مؤشرات استراتيجية ترتبط بقدرة اقتصادنا على تحقيق النمو والابتكار والإنتاج في المستقبل. وتزداد أهمية هذه النتائج إذا وضعناها في سياق التحولات المتسارعة التي يشهدها سوق العمل. فوفقا للمنتدى الاقتصادي العالمي، ستكون المهارات المرتبطة بالذكاء الاصطناعي وتحليل البيانات والأمن السيبراني والتكنولوجيا الرقمية من بين الأسرع نمواً خلال السنوات المقبلة. كما يتوقع أن تصبح القدرة على التعلم المستمر وإعادة التأهيل المهني من المتطلبات الأساسية للحفاظ على التنافسية المهنية. وهذا يعني أن الجامعات لم تعد مطالبة فقط بتزويد الطلبة بالمعرفة التخصصية، بل بإعدادهم لمسيرة مهنية طويلة تتطلب التكيف المستمر مع التغيير. إن التحدي الذي نناقشه اليوم ليس مسؤولية الجامعات وحدها ولا مسؤولية أصحاب العمل وحدهم، بل مسؤولية مشتركة تتطلب شراكة حقيقية بين مؤسسات التعليم العالي والقطاع الخاص والحكومات والمؤسسات البحثية والشباب أنفسهم. فالموائمة بين التعليم وسوق العمل لا يتحقق من خلال تحديث المناهج فقط، وإنما من خلال بناء منظومة متكاملة تشمل التعلم القائم على العمل والتدريب العملي وتتبع الخريجين والشراكات المؤسسية المستدامة والاستفادة من البيانات والأدلة في تطوير البرامج الأكاديمية وقياس أثرها. في هذا الإطار تمثل جلسة اليوم نموذجا للحوار الذي نحتاجه في المنطقة، حوار يجمع بين منتجي المعرفة وصناع السياسات وأصحاب العمل والشباب، وينتقل من تشخيص التحديات إلى البحث عن الحلول وتبادل الآراء ومن تبادل الآراء إلى بناء الشراكات، ومن عرض البيانات إلى صياغة التوصيات والسياسات. وفي النهاية أود أن أتقدم بخالص الشكر والتقدير إلى جميع الخبراء والباحثين والمتحدثين الذين ساهموا في هذه الدراسة وفي هذا اللقاء المعرفي، ولممثلي الجامعات والوزارات والمؤسسات الحكومية والقطاع الخاص الذين يشاركون في هذا الحوار المهم. كما أتوجه بشكر خاص إلى مؤسسة عبد الله القرير على تعاونها المثمر مع المركز ودورها الرائد في دعم الشباب وتعزيز جاهزيتهم للمستقبل، وعلى إدارتها للحوار الثلاثي الذي يجمع بين التعليم العالي وأصحاب العمل والشباب، وهو حوار نؤمن بأهميته في بناء جسور أكثر قوة بين التعليم وسوق العمل. وأتطلع أن تشكل هذه الجلسة من سلسلة 90 دقيقة من المعرفة أن تكون منصة إقليمية فاعلة لتبادل الخبر والرؤى. إن المستقبل المنطقة لن يقاس بعدد الجامعات أو أعداد الخريجين فحسب، بل بقدرتنا على إعداد أجيال تملك مهارات المستقبل وتستطيع توظيف المعرفة والتكنولوجيا والذكاء الاصطناعي لصناعة قيمة مضافة حقيقية لمجتمعاتها واقتصاداتها. فالمستقبل لن يكون للأكثر تعليما فقط، بل للأكثر قدرة على التعلم والتكيف والابتكار. من هنا فإن مسؤوليتنا المشتركة اليوم هي أن نضمن أن يكون خريج خريج في دول مجلس التعاون الخليجي، قادرا ليس فقط على الحصول على وظيفة، بل على صناعة الفرص وقيادة التغيير والمساهمة في بناء مستقبل أكثر ازدهارا واستدامة لأوطاننا. شكرا لكم، والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Thank you so much, Ms. Mahra. Before we continue, I would like to remind the audience that translation is available in both English and Arabic, whatever language you prefer. If you want to change the language, please click on the globe icon and you can change the language. قبل ما ننتقل للسبيكر الثاني، أحب أقول للجمهور إنه الترجمة متوفرة بالعربية والإنجليزية. إذا بتبغوا تغيروا اللغة، في أيقونة الكرة الأرضية تقدروا تضغطوا عليها عشان تغيرون اللغة، لأنه بالحلقة النقاشية في ناس رح يتكلموا بالإنجليزي، في ناس رح يتكلموا بالعربي، فأنتوا اختاروا اللغة اللي أنتوا حابين تسمعوا النقاش فيها. And next, I'm going to be introducing our keynote speaker, Dr. Nina Abdelrazak, one of the primary researchers who worked with us on this report. Dr. Nina Abdelrazak currently works as an associate professor of humanities at the College of Arts and Sciences at the American University of Bahrain. She also holds the position of Director of Institutional Research and Assessment and the Director of Center of Teaching and Learning Excellence. So thank you very much for being with us today, Dr. Nina. Dr. Nina is going to take us through the report and the key findings of the report. So please feel free, Dr. Nina. Thank you. And I want to also remind the audience that we have, if you have a question you want to ask the speakers later, please put it in the Q&A section. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Noura. I will start by sharing my screen and the slides. Okay, so just need to go to view. Is it sharing now?
Yes.
Okay, I just need to make it slideshow. Gotta get this out of the way. Okay, there. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay, that's great. Okay, so I'd like to begin today to say good afternoon to everyone and to thank the RCEP, UNESCO, and Al Ghurair Foundation for this great opportunity. I'm proud to have been one of the lead researchers on this research project, along with distinguished researchers like Dr. Lena Gray and Alison Anderson. And what we will be focusing on today is basically the employer's perspectives with respect to skills gap among the GCC graduates. And I would like to start with a main finding that we came up with, which may be surprising to some of you. So basically, what we found is that while 70% of employers in the GCC, they cite communication, teamwork, and problem solving as critical gaps in graduates, we found that there is, on the other side, another problem where a high percentage of the employers have absolutely no formal ties with university, which indicates basically like a disconnect between both sides, and this could be costly in terms of talent and opportunity. And so, this comes really very, very interesting as a finding, because while the employers are facing challenges, at the same time, there isn't possibly enough communication happening between them to voice what they need and what the universities are actually producing in terms of graduates and their skills. So I'm going to just go over what we did in the study. Dr. Mahra, thankfully, she gave an excellent, introduction to the context. And so maybe I will skip that part and I'll just move directly to the aims of the study and talk about the rationale, the expected benefits, our main research themes, the theories that guided our study, and the methodology that we used, and of course, the main findings. So I'm going to skip the context as the GCC education landscape, because already, we emphasize that we have all of the economic visions as drivers of change. We have a lot of emphasis there on quality education and also on technology integration. There's a lot of like improvement in terms of infrastructure taking place in the GCC. However, still there are challenges, especially challenges when it comes to the curricula taught in universities and their alignment with what basically is needed in the labor market. So the aims of our study were four. First, we wanted to try to identify what are the skills that are needed by the employers, whether technical or transferable or employability skills. We also wanted to evaluate the alignment that exists between the graduating students and their skills and the job market basically demands and needs. We wanted also to assess how AI and other like emerging technologies are reshaping skills and deciding on maybe what future skills are going to be needed. And finally, we wanted to try to see what are the main challenges that employers are facing in terms of recruitment and what are some solutions that they are actually like trying out. Now, the rationale for our study, again, Dr. Mahra, mashallah, she covered a lot of this. So I will go very quickly over it. So because we know that we are witnessing in the region economic diversification moving away from oil production and energy to more of a diverse economy. So the expectation is that there are some new skills that are going to be needed and maybe some skills that exist that are not going to be as important anymore. And so this study actually helps highlight all of that. Another thing is this study will help in identifying where exactly are the gaps and the mismatches between the skills of the graduates and the labor market needs. So this will help in raising awareness and giving better understanding and a clearer picture of the situation we're going through. And all of this, of course, will help in supporting policy, informing policymakers about the decisions that they should be taking in order to address the existing gaps and the mismatches. And finally, also, as we said, our aim was to see, well, how is technology and especially AI reshaping skills in terms of what is needed and what will also be needed in the future. Now, what we were expecting as benefits from the study is, more informed decision-making and policy based on data and evidence, enhanced education systems. Hopefully, through the study, we can have a direction of how universities need to improve in terms of their curricula and other things they're doing. Economic growth, because if the study can help in identifying what the skill gaps are and how to close them, then this can help basically improve and enhance growth and development. And also, we wanted the study to be like a platform for employers where they could actually sound their voice in terms of what they need and what challenges they face, especially when it comes to finding the right graduates to employ. And finally, we feel that this study can help with long-term economic stability through the closing of certain gaps and addressing the mismatches. So we had three main themes. The first one focuses on current and future skills needs. Second, education and training provision. And the third, the recruitment practices and challenges. The theories that guided our study were three. The first one was human capital theory, which basically focuses a lot on the importance of education and training in terms of enhancing productivity and helping basically in driving growth. The second one focuses on work-based learning and the importance of combining education, formal education, and experiential learning through internships and apprenticeships. And the last one is a theory from psychology, the self-determination theory, which really focuses on psychological aspects like the competence of students, their autonomy and sense of relatedness or belongingness, and how these psychological aspects can impact their motivation to acquire new skills and, to have like a direction towards lifelong learning. So with this, just to tell you a little bit about the methodology we used. So this study was a multi-methods study. because we used both qualitative and quantitative data collection tools. But not only that, even with our data analysis, we relied on both quantitative and qualitative methods. So the first method we used was really a review of the literature, and so that gave us qualitative data. And then we used an online survey. The survey was distributed to 694 employers from the private sector across 6 countries in the GCC. And the survey itself had both quantitative items and qualitative items. And the third methodology we used was purely qualitative, the focus groups. We had a total of 6 focus groups, and in total, 46 participants were in these focus groups. I'll say more about the details of the data tools later on, but I just want to emphasize that having like 3 types of methodology really helped us with triangulation of our findings. It's cross-validated because we were able to validate findings from one method to the other. I'm going to start first with what does the literature say in terms of challenges, in terms of existing skills gaps and mismatches. So in the case of skills demand, like what are the skills that are needed? The literature basically does highlight technical skills, especially like STEM in fields like electronics, mechanical engineering, cybersecurity. It highlights transferable skills like digital literacy, adaptability, and sustainability knowledge, and also employability skills like leadership, teamwork, and English language proficiency. In terms of the mismatch, what was noticed from the literature is that usually like the graduates, they overestimate their leadership skills, while the employers, they notice that, maybe the graduates are overrating themselves. So like 60% of graduates believe they do have leadership skills, but the employers, only 25% of them agree with that. Another like mismatch we noticed is especially when students are maybe being exposed to international curricula or studying outside of the local market. Sometimes what happens is they come and there's a mismatch between what skills they have acquired and what skills exactly the local job or country requires. And the final one that we found in the literature basically is the misalignment, if you want, between the curricula, especially in terms of technology integration and AI integration, and what is needed in certain fields, especially fields like, for example, finance and fintech and all of that. So we felt that there isn't really enough technology integration in the curriculum. Other things that we found in the literature in terms of education and training provision. So the literature told us that a lot of the employers, they actually criticize higher education. They say that there is a disconnect between what curricula are taught and the industry needs. They say there's a lot of focus on theory rather than practice. And at the same time, they say that the private institutions of learning, usually they are prioritizing popularity more than quality education. And all of this, anyway, is leading to the mismatches and leading to graduates who are not really ready for real work or practical work. We also found positive things in the literature, like all of the literature pointed that, yes, there is growth, there is expansion, especially in terms of collaboration between employers and the universities and the internships. So things are a little bit better than before. And the call to action, a lot of the literature was calling for more like micro-credentialing and employer-led curriculum design, where the employers actually collaborate with the universities in designing the programs to be delivered. The last thing we found in the literature related to the challenges that employers face in terms of recruitment. So basically, they mentioned that a lot of the graduates, they prefer government jobs to private, sector jobs. And they said, and this is in terms of the locals, another thing, they noticed that small businesses usually, they do not have graduates who have sufficient entrepreneurial skills. So that is weak. And they mentioned that there are quality concerns, especially when it comes to graduates coming from private universities. Another thing, if they want to recruit, let's say, international talent. In some GCC countries, there are visa restrictions that basically hinder that. And finally, the AI adoption, usually like, yes, it can help in improving wages, if graduates are coming and they do have AI certifications and all of that, but they notice that because it is moving very, very fast, there's always like a greater need for upskilling. Now, what are some recommended solutions that were found in the literature? So there was a call for like more dependence on social media when it comes to recruitment, more like emphasis on in-house training, and also like higher wages, enhanced compensation, and improvement in terms of work environments. Now, if we go to our survey and the focus group, just to give you an idea of our survey, so we did say we had a total of 694 responses from 6 GCC countries, which are UAE, Bahrain, KSA, Kuwait, Oman, and Qatar. The biggest number of responses came from the UAE, 320, and then from Bahrain, 201, 129 from Saudi Arabia, 22 from Kuwait, 29 from Oman, and 15 from Qatar. Now, our response rate was really good for an online survey. It was 49.5, which is higher than the acceptable average, internationally, which is like 30%. We had on the survey 24 Likert scale questions. So those were the closed-ended questions rated from 1 to 5. And we had 5 open-ended questions, and all of the survey was available in both Arabic and English. In terms of our focus group, we said we had 6 focus groups with a total of 46 participants. Now, 16 of the participants came from the UAE, 15 from Bahrain, 12 from Saudi Arabia, 4 from Kuwait, 3 from Oman, and 3 from Qatar. Now, with the focus groups, we had 4 groups which were really mixed, from different countries, and 2 that were country-specific. One of them was UAE-based and one was Bahrain-based. And also 5 of the focus groups were conducted in English because this was the preference of the participants, and one was conducted in Arabic. And the yes, my dear.
Yeah, sorry,
Yes.
but can you just fix the view of the slides so that it's full screen? Because right now it's split screen.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay, let me see. How can I do that?
maybe in display settings.
Okay. I think maybe when I share, I need to fix it there. So let me stop sharing and reshare. Yes?
Okay, sure.
Okay, let me
Yeah,
try
just want to
to
make
do
sure
that.
everyone is able to see
Okay.
clearly. Thank you.
So it does say content only here when I'm sharing. So I don't know why that is happening.
Okay, click on that cup thing again.
Okay. What about now? It's still the same?
Do you see like where it says display settings there above the slides? Yeah, I think this is
Yes.
perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Now
Yes,
now
please
it's okay?
continue. Yeah,
Okay,
but
sure.
make it big, make it full presentation mode.
Okay. Let me see. So swap maybe this way? Is this better?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, that's
Thank you.
great. Okay. Now I see it smaller, but that's not the problem. I can see. Okay,
Thank
so
you.
the topics that the focus groups focused on were the skills gaps, the higher education institutions' role, and the recruitment challenges. And so what were the main findings from the online survey when it comes to the current skill needs? So again, we noticed that we did have like similarity with the literature review because the employer said that the current skill needs, that we have soft skills like adaptability, innovative thinking, communication, and also the transferable skills like digital literacy, teamwork, problem solving, and technical skills like AI, sustainable technologies, industry specific expertise. Now, there were like critical gaps highlighted in terms of adaptability of the graduates that scored lowest, and communication, also skills, both written and oral communication, and also like the AI and digital literacy. All of those were like critical gaps highlighted through the survey as current skills that are needed but are actually like poor or weak. In terms of the focus group, what was mentioned were like employability skills such as work ethics, time management and punctuality, motivation, sense of purpose, and cultural awareness. All of these were basically scored as, things that are needed, and they needed enhancement in graduate. And so I'll just mention a few things here because of time, like things, for example, where they said a lot of the graduates, they just like punch in or out. They don't have really motivation or commitment. They said if they are working in an environment which is multicultural, they have problems there in communicating with like people from different cultures. They mentioned sometimes that they do get hired and they do get trained, but then there's a high dropout rate in some fields, like for example, teaching. So they do not stay. And at the same time, they have a problem with meeting deadlines or even recognizing like consequences, how their own actions may impact basically the good of the organization or the achievement of goals of the organization and all of that. Also, in terms of other skills like transferable skills, the communication skills, as we said, both oral and verbal communication, but more than that, even cultural and social intelligence, and even like multicultural, like basically skills, all of that is considered also as skills that are needed, but usually, we'll notice that they are not there, or they are weak. Transferable skills, cultural influence. They noted that sometimes like the graduates are not really very strong in teamwork, and that is possibly because like many times the culture or many times even the school culture focuses more on individual competition than on teamwork. And also another thing is sometimes even like assignments given in university are more like individual than based on collaboration, and they felt that could be like contributing to the weak teamwork skills. And they noticed that even like problem solving in a team is also weak because usually the graduates, they prefer to go to their seniors for solutions. In terms of also critical thinking, problem solving, and creativity, all of those were considered as things that are basically missing or that are weak and needed enhancement. Continuous learning and adaptability, they felt that a lot of the graduates, they have rigidity in thinking, and also like they will just think in one way, or also when they are basically given training or asked to do training, there is sometimes like refusal and there is lack of motivation. So they are very rigid when it comes to their willingness to upskill. And another thing is that the employers, they contributed maybe this lack of adaptability sometimes, and the lack of like critical thinking and all of that goes back to how critical thinking is taught in some like schools, where it is taught as a separate subject rather than being integrated within other coursework. So even if the students may have a little bit of it, they do not have like exposure to how to apply it in certain contexts. So that was another thing that was highlighted. When it comes to employability skills, so they felt that the technical skills there, like the digital skills, and that are industry specific, sometimes are weak, especially like in certain fields that require a lot of enhanced digital skills, such as healthcare, finance, and retail. And also data analysis skills seem to be like another like gap that was highlighted. Now, here I put for you like some quotes, direct quotes from the employers. I'm not going to read them. I'm going to take a deep breath because I really have a very bad cold, and I'll just leave them there for you for a minute to read on your own. And these are quotes from the employers. Okay, so you notice, in what they said, they mentioned like no negotiation skills, self-learning, self-motivation. They mentioned like sometimes like they don't know how to ask the right questions. And so that's related again to critical thinking and to communication. Even the ability to listening skills is a problem. Another thing is that sometimes they're a little bit like isolated. They work better virtually than they work with other people. So all of this was highlighted in the answers of our employers. Now we turn to the future skills to see what did the employers see are really future skills that are needed. So, this study really had a wealth of data, but I tried because of time to just like compress everything in slides. So this is a very important slide because I try to use the traffic light colors to tell you like what they felt are really skills that are going to be very important in the future, the green. So the digital literacy, adaptability with digital tools and software, those were thought to be like future skills that are going to be very important. Some that will remain important or become, a little bit more important: critical thinking, problem solving, and creativity and teamwork. And some that will become less important, basically basic and applied, like numeracy and the ability to communicate in writing. And because I guess with technology and AI, a lot of this is happening like through that. So they feel that this is becoming less important. So these were highlighted as like the main future skills that are going to be needed. And what do we get, I mean, like from all of this that we have just said, like for policymakers, like what are some things our study highlighted is needed as decisions from policymakers? So you'll see a lot of decisions here related to addressing critical skills gap, enhancing digital literacy, promoting critical thinking, fostering teamwork, and adjusting the focus on numeracy and basic communication, and maybe make it a little bit less. And so there are actions that come from these decisions, actions like trying to implement certain training programs that are targeted, not like general, but really targeted based on the gaps. Another thing is to try to develop more initiatives when it comes to digital literacy and initiatives that are more comprehensive. Try to integrate more critical thinking in everything that, let's say, the graduates do, even like in workplaces, and try to make like more team building activities, more projects that are collaborative, have them work on that so that they can develop those skills from a young age, or, when they're still newly employed. And things like trying to relocate resources in order to prioritize the emerging skills instead of having a lot of resources on skills that are not going to become obsolete, but are going to be less important. Try to put more like resources and things that are going to be more needed. And when it comes to universities, now what we found from the online survey in terms of whether, let's say, the universities are preparing the graduates for the job market, what we noticed is that 55% of the employers, they feel that the universities are only partly preparing the graduates. And then we have 22% who said that the graduates are well prepared, and 23, they said they're not prepared. So really, if you take just the 22% where they feel they are well prepared, then this really highlights a challenge and the problem, because we are ending up with 78% where you have employers that feel that the graduates are not really well prepared for the job market. When it comes to basically like what are the key areas that are in need of improvement in higher education, so the employer, 70% of them mentioned soft skills development like communication, teamwork, and problem solving. 68% mentioned work-based learning opportunities. 65% mentioned more alignment between curricula and labor market needs. 45% mentioned that the faculty that are hired to teach, some of them, should have industry experience. So a way to bridge academia and industry. And then finally, they highlighted there needs to be faster tech adoption within the universities and also better language instruction. So basically, the employers, they want graduates that come with both technical and soft skills, and they emphasize practical experience and industry relevant curricula. When it comes also to basically like how do the participants and the employers, organizations, like communicate their needs to the universities, we found that really only 32% of them are engaging directly like with the universities, like sometimes like with people in the universities, and which is not really very formal. And then there were 43% who have absolutely no links with the university, and only 22 serve on like curriculum advisory boards, like for programs or colleges. So again, this is really a problem because the 22% is a low percentage in terms of the communication and collaboration between the employers and the universities. So it is a significant disconnect, really. And in terms of basically like what do the employers think the higher education institutions should be doing to reduce the skills gap? So they gave some recommendations, like they felt there needs to be more practical hands-on learning. They need to expand internships, make them more formal, make them more structured. They need to have like consultation coming from the industry, and it needs to be regular. It needs to be formalized. And there needs to be a focus on STEAM and not STEM. Add the arts to the STEM, because the arts can help with enhancing creativity and innovation in the graduates. And then they said there needs to be professional certifications integrated within the academic programs in universities, because that will really help the students be more prepared and ready professionally. And finally, they felt there needs to be some governmental involvement when it comes to curriculum design, meaning the governments need to work on setting frameworks that help ensure that the university programs are really meeting the job demands. But that to say, we'll see this in another slide, that means the government will need to have like formal systems of data collection to know exactly what the job demands are, and then based on that, direct the institutions of learning on how their programs should be to meet those demands. So that basically is another gap where maybe many of the countries do not like have formalized systems for data collection in terms of what the local job market needs are. In terms of training, so what do the employers think that their role in training is? They all think that, yes, they do have a primary responsibility to provide internships and on-job training. And they feel that internships are really important. And they feel that the employers, when they are doing the training for the graduates, they should focus on specialized technical skills. In terms of also like the type of training, they said it's not enough to sometimes have on-job training, because, you know, if that is done, it can be like done by the line managers, or it can be done in a formal way through programs or whatever. But, you know, if the company maybe is like too busy or under-resourced or whatever, that could put a lot of pressure on the workers in the company and the organization. So sometimes they said it is useful also to have external or outsourced training, to send the graduates to go and train elsewhere, and maybe just like fund them for doing that if possible. But again, this could put like pressure on the small companies that are limited again in funding or resources. But the consensus was that it's always good to have a mix between both internal and external training for new exposure, you know, for the graduates. Now, when it comes to challenges with the training that they thought should be considered, they said a lot of the internships sometimes are not structured enough, and sometimes like they're not very relevant to what the student should be expected to do as an employee. And so they felt that more structure is needed. Sometimes even like longer internships was highlighted, and more hands-on experience. There need to be clear objectives coming from the universities about what the students should be trained on, and this does not happen all of the time. And there needs to be continuous follow-up also from the academic advisors in the universities with the field supervisors. And finally, there are cost and resource constraints sometimes, because sometimes, you know, some students are expected paid internships, and that is not always maybe possible. Sometimes even within the institution, or sorry, the company, you may not have someone there to available to do the training as they should, or to give enough of their time. So all of these were constraints that were mentioned. Now, the recruitment practices and challenges. So the survey in terms of recruitment, what it basically mentioned is that usually when they recruit from diverse fields. And the most common fields where recruitment is happening: business and management, engineering and technology, education and training, healthcare and medical sciences, social sciences and humanities, and the natural sciences. So these are the fields where most of the recruitment in the GCC is happening. In terms of finding suitable graduates, there's a difficulty there, and this difficulty was highlighted through our percentages. So 45% said that recruitment is somewhat difficult, and 22% said they find it difficult, with 10% saying very difficult. And there were only 24% that said that finding the right graduates is easy and very easy. So again, the 24% is a low percentage. And when they were asked about the reasons, like why is it difficult to find suitable graduates, they mentioned like lack of practical skills and experience, and the curricula not being aligned with the industry needs. And there are basically skills gaps like communication, work ethics, and the high salary expectations. Graduates of today, they come in and, from the beginning, they are expecting to get, higher salaries maybe than what we used to see in previous times. In terms of basically like what does the organization try to do to address the challenges with recruitment, unfortunately, some employers said that what we try to do is we just don't recruit. And really, that is really bad. That's an extreme measure. And this was like 68% of the employers mentioned this. We leave the position unfilled. And then some of them said, well, what we try to do is, okay, we recruit, but then we turn to external training. And sometimes we resort to global recruitment, get someone from outside, or, we focus on our internships to try to be very selective by picking those who stand out in the internships. Okay, but really few of them said that they are willing to invest in long-term employee development, because it is very, very costly in terms of all the resources, maybe time and money and all of that. But again, see, this is really an extreme measure that is highlighted where people prefer to leave jobs unfilled, and then we notice that maybe there are higher rates now of unemployability happening among the locals. The recruiting, the challenges with recruiting suitable graduates, I already mentioned this, so I'm not going to go over this. I'm just going to skip it and move on to barriers in relation to accessing training provision. Like, what are some barriers for even the graduates to access training or to make training available? So sometimes, the employers, they highlighted, they said that sometimes the training is available. However, it doesn't really match what is needed in terms of skills. Okay, that the skills that the graduates are coming lacking. So there is this mismatch. And sometimes they said that geographical limitations in some countries that are big geographically, like the basically training could be provided at a very distant place, especially for employees or graduates who live in remote areas, and the training happening in the major cities or whatever. So that sometimes could be a barrier that was mentioned, the graduates not being able to access the training. And sometimes there are, yes, online courses that are happening, but again, the online courses may not really address, especially if the online courses are not customized by the employer, they don't really address the specific industry needs and practices that are local. Of course, they did acknowledge that now there are improvements with the provision of training and with accessibility and all of that, and also with alignment with the national skills gap, but still the picture is not yet perfect. Now, the key takeaways for employers when it comes to recruitment practices and challenges, just to conclude this section. So the employers, they are facing significant challenges with recruitment. Many prefer leaving positions unfilled. External training, global recruitment, internship are some of the strategies that they are using. There are few employers willing to invest in long-term development of employees. And finally, there are sometimes barriers to accessing the provision of training for both the employers and the graduates. Now, very quickly, in terms of impact, like what does all of this, like what kind of impact does it have? So basically, these gaps and mismatches, they can lead to reduced efficiency, because basically the employees that are hired, they're unable to complete tasks in an effective way. They don't have the right skills, and so the productivity can be impacted negatively. Higher unemployment rates, again, we said maybe because jobs are being left unfilled. Another thing is maybe some are actually like getting hired, but they are not being retained because they don't have the right experience or skills or whatever, and they don't have the right qualifications maybe. And this slows down economic growth. And finally, basically, training now is becoming like more and more costly for the organization and for the government, and more investment is needed actually to have more training and more relevant training to help basically fill the skills gap. Now, the identified skills gaps and mismatches. So again, because like in the universities, it was highlighted that there isn't technology integration that is fast enough or advanced enough, this could lead to slower adoption of technological advancements. Also, because like there are some like skills that are, you know, in demand. And if you come and you have those skills, maybe there is an enhancement in wages. And this could be like causing like an income inequality with those who do not have like the same skills. And then also there could be like delays in national development goals because the industries are not really receiving the workforce that they need in terms of the skills needed for the economic diversification and the sustainable growth and all of that. So finally, in terms of like recommendations to close the employability skills gap, so basically, we said that the core skills and that the coordinated actions, if we take all of our findings together, and as Dr. Mahra highlighted before, this is really initiatives that are not the responsibility of one side. It's the responsibility of all sides, the government, the universities, the employers. So what do we come out with? We come out that, okay, universities, they do have a role to play. They need to align their curricula better with the labor market needs. They need to integrate more practical work. They need to enhance basically technology integration. Employers, they need to engage more with the universities, help in designing the curricula the way that will serve their purposes. And there needs to be like continuous upskilling for the graduates that they require and that they demand. Another thing is that basically all of them need to be working on the core skills that we highlighted, which are the employability skills, critical thinking, teamwork, and digital literacy. And finally, the policymakers, they should enable things like this collaborations, stronger collaboration between the labor market and the university. They need to find ways, they need to put policies, they need to put frameworks that will help enhance that collaboration and will help to connect basically the two together. And this I mentioned before. I think one important role that the policymakers have and the government has is better monitoring of the skills gap. Because if we don't have this data, it really becomes very difficult to guide improvement. We always say no quality without data. And if this needs to be monitored really well, what are the skills gap? And we should have it all in numbers in order that it guides everything, the universities and the employers and all of that. Even vocational training is very, very important because a lot of the skills maybe that are not emphasized in university, vocational training also could be taking care of that and meeting the needs of the industry. Okay, I'm almost done. So this is all like repetition. I'm going to skip this. This was basically, this is my last slide, like some areas for further investigation and research that we came up with. We said that we need to like do more research on like educational reform, especially in relation to pedagogy, like teaching methodologies. And we need to have basically studies that focus on the structural reform in higher education education. Another thing we said, we need to do research on how to balance better knowledge and skills in higher education, because the employers did highlight there is still more focus on theory than practice. We need to research like how can the curricula become more dynamic and being more like adapted to the labor market needs. We need to do research on basically what the expectations of the employers are, what the expectations of the graduates are, and how to basically constitute better alignment between them. And finally, we need to do some research on like assessment in universities, on certification also, how to better integrate professional certificates, micro-credentialing, and all of that. So this is in a nutshell and very quickly a glimpse of what we did in our study. So I thank you very much, and I hope I wasn't rushing too much, but I was trying to be aware of the time. I will stop sharing now.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nina. Actually, we do
welcome.
have a little bit of time. If it's okay with you, we can take
Sure.
some questions.
Sure.
Okay.
I can see Dr. Lina's here too, so that's good. She can help support me.
First of all, for all our audience, we've just put the link in the chat if you want to download the full report and have a look at it. It's available in the chat. You can also find it on our website. If you go to our website, recipunesco.ae, and go to Knowledge Corner, you will find there the full study. So yeah, we look forward for everyone to download it and give it a read, because yes, this was a small section of everything we've learned. So Dr. Nina, a couple of questions we had here. So one question we had from Professor Saoud: what, in your opinion, besides pay, is the reason for GCC students to prefer government jobs over private jobs? And if we know the reason, can we tackle it? Do you have any insight on this?
That's a great question. Thank you. I think from what I remember during the focus groups, some of them mentioned that shorter, work days, shorter like hours, they prefer that. And I think like better like stability and benefits in the government sector than in the private sector. And I think also they felt that the workload maybe in the government sector could be sometimes less than in some private like companies, especially like in private companies that are pretty small and limited in like a budget, where they may, hire someone and then give them like, a million tasks or position at one time, just to save costs. So I think those were, but I still remember very well that like shorter working hours was like a big one that was mentioned. I don't know, Dr. Lina, do you remember anything else from, it was a long time ago, so.
I think maybe she's still getting ready.
Yes, okay, no problem.
But there was another question here that was interesting. It was asking if throughout the research, was there any universities or institutions you found that you think exemplified ways to reduce this gap?
We did not like study universities per se, because we were focusing on the employers, but some of our employers did actually like come from universities. They were working in universities, and there were several like solutions that were mentioned, but mainly like from other countries, like in Europe. They were mentioning, for instance, how a lot of like schools in high school, they actually require from the students to go and work for a certain time period other than the internship. Internship comes in university, but like when they are in high school, they expose them to so many different fields, and that really helps, because also it helps the students from a young age know what is expected in each field, what the kind of work is, and so when they come to make career choices, they are better informed. So, and then when they choose the right career or major in university, They are, in a way, ensuring that they are choosing the right major for them, and they know what is in store when it comes to actual like employment. So that was mentioned as a model that really we need to start at a very like young age, not wait for university to start preparing graduates for careers, and start from a much earlier age, like high school, even middle school, some of them were mentioning, and let the students every year like go through different experiences and in different fields. So this was something that was mentioned that I still like, it's stuck in my head because I felt like it was really a very good suggestion. But for instance, you know, there are some universities in the region, what they do is they do not leave the internship till like the last year, the fourth year. What they do is now, I know they do this in teaching colleges because I come from an education background, where they expose the students from year one to the schools. Like they will send them first to go and just observe in the first semester. Second semester, they can be shadow teachers. So they follow a teacher around to see all the kinds of things that they do and the kinds of work that they work in, and not just the teaching. And then like in the second year, they are doing another internship, short internship with more like specific tasks and so on. And every year in their 4-year academic program, what is happening is more and more tasks are being added to them, so that in the last semester, they have like a full-fledged internship where for the whole semester, they're actually working as teachers in the schools. And this kind of model actually really works very well. If the internships are not like left till the last semester, and the exposure to the field is beginning early on in the university life. And others, I still remember they mentioned a very nice model, especially for engineering. They were mentioning that it's not enough in engineering colleges like to have simulations to teach the or labs. They were mentioning where universities need to have more like, if you want, actual simulated field work within the university campuses, where they, if let's say mechanical engineers, they will have machines there for them and things like that, and act out basically like the kinds of tasks and jobs they would be doing during their employment. And so they were mentioning this model where like it not just limit, let's say, practical exposure to labs or to simulations, but actually like take the field into the university if you want. And some of these like workshops could actually be like run by people from the industry themselves. They could be like contracted to come in and provide like programs, which are hands-on program that mimic actually what happens in the company or in the firm that these engineers would be working in. So those were, you know, some of the ideas that were mentioned from the tip of my head.
Thank you, Dr. Nina. We'll just have
You're
a couple more
welcome.
questions while all the panelists get ready.
Sure.
Khalid asked, the theoretical framework that was chosen for the study is based on classical theories developed between the 60s and the 80s. Can you explain why you chose these theories instead of more recent theoretical perspectives and contemporary models?
I think basically because we looked at their relevance. So here we were aiming to do a study that really focuses on what is needed in terms of enhancing human capital, right? Yeah, I mean, that's the whole purpose. We want to see like how we can better basically the graduates in terms of knowledge and skills and all of that. And so it just made sense that using like human capital theory, because this is where it emphasizes. And really, when it comes to theoretical framework, I mean, it wasn't just the theories that were guiding us. It was also more like even our conceptual framework, our own beliefs and principles, and what we think, you know, as researchers is really important. But I didn't mention all of that in here. It is mentioned in the report, like what were our beliefs that guided us in the study. Now, when it comes to like the theory from psychology, again, the theory from psychology, it's because, like from what we were reading when we began, before even we decided on our theoretical framework, we did notice that there was a lot of emphasis on this generation not motivated, they don't want to do anything. Some, times we hear people mentioning, oh, they are lazy, they don't want to work and all of that. So clearly that was like highlighting for us that maybe there is something, they are in the end humans and they're not very much different than us. The times are different, yes, but in the end, theories of psychology may apply also to them. And so we felt like if we do understand what is causing maybe their motivational problems, then we can find ways where we can work on that to make them feel more of a sense of belongingness to their workplace. And if they do feel more of a sense of belongingness, and also how to increase their competence, the more they feel competent, the more they will be motivated. A person who lacks skills and they know that they are weak in something, that directly impacts their motivation. They will not want to do a certain task because they feel, well, I'm not good at this, I should not be. So all of that we felt is really very relevant to what we were going to study, and this is why. And I mean, when it comes to theory, we always know that there is absolutely nothing wrong with actually falling back on the classical theories, because everything new that comes builds on that, actually. It's not like anything new comes that is like totally new. It's always like a diversion from it or just adding to it more, but they are always like the basis of what you find in psychology or in human resource theory and all of that. I hope I've answered your question.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nina. I just got a message from one of our panelists that she might be a little late. She has a personal circumstance that came up. So,
Okay.
Dr. Nina, I would love for you, if you're able to stay on our panel.
Sure.
If not, that is
Yeah.
okay. But I would love for you to be able to stay
No
so we can
problem.
have this discussion. Now we will transition to our panel. I'm going to introduce Sarah Abdel Jalil from Abdullah Al Ghureir Foundation. Sarah Abdel Jalil is the head of talent development partnerships at Abdullah Al Ghureir Foundation, where she leads strategic partnerships that prepare Emirati and Arab youth for the future of work through innovative upskilling and employment pathways. She works closely with government, industry, and academic partners to design and scale talent development across high growth sectors, so helping to bridge the gap between education and employment. Abdullah Al Ghureir Foundation is also our partner for this event today, and they've also contributed to this report. So at the end of the report, we've actually added an annex by Abdullah Al Ghureir Foundation, which shows a very practical example of how this foundation is trying to bridge the skills gap. So Sarah, please go ahead. You can talk a little bit about the work that you guys did and also introduce the rest of the panelists. We're going to be having youth voice, higher education leader voice. Dr. Nina will be with us. You all know her already. And we're also going to be having Nabil Al-Faqir, who is a recruitment expert across the GCC. Thank you so much. Sarah, you can take it from here.
Thank you, Nora, very much. Good afternoon, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be moderating the discussion today, especially this topic. It sits really at the heart of the region's economic ambition and really talking about how can we ensure that education systems are preparing the youth today not only to succeed academically, but also to thrive in today's rapidly changing workforce. It's very it's a very important question, to be honest. And through my work at the Abdullah Al Ghureir Foundation, I've had the opportunity to work closely with young people, with higher education institutions, with employers, and policymakers across the region. And a major part of my work over the past few years has actually centered around trying to understand how the labor market is evolving, what skills are becoming important, how can we better prepare youth for the future of work, and not just in theory, but in a way that directly connects learning with employment opportunities. to the extent that we have invested also in latest technology and AI tools to help us really understand more about skills intelligence in the labor market, skill trends, and what that means in terms of the outlook for jobs in the region. And this is becoming more and more important, I have to say, because we see that the conversation has shifted. It's no longer really about qualifications or degrees, and some of that has come out in the study already. It's about skills, adaptability, and lifelong learning. How we prepare individuals, not just for the jobs that are available today, but for jobs that we don't know how they would look like in the future with the evolving technology and economic transformation. So I think the RSEP study really provides a very valuable backdrop for this conversation and raises very important questions about how the education system, employers, and policymakers can work together to ensure that learners are equipped and are able to become a driving force in the workplace. So, and I think we've had a very rich kind of presentation from Dr. Nina and a few reflections, and I think this is really, really inspiring. But to help us explore these questions a little bit more, we are joined by a really outstanding panel representing different perspectives across the education and the workforce. So let me, or please join me in welcoming our panelists. I'll start with Dr. Harib Al-Jabri, Assistant Undersecretary for Higher Education Affairs at the Ministry of Education and Higher Education in Qatar. He brings an extensive experience in higher education policy, innovation, and workforce development. We also have Dr. Lena Gray. I think she has joined us already.
Yes.
An internationally recognized assessment researcher and honorary Norm Fellow at the University of Oxford. And I know a lot of your work has focused on assessment of higher order and transferable skills. So really happy to have you here with us today. Nabil Al-Fakir, CEO and co-founder of No Cap Consulting, who brings over 2 decades of experience in recruitment, talent acquisition, and workforce competitiveness across the GCC, bringing in the employer perspective. And finally, but very important still in the conversation, of course, Ahd Al-Naqbi. She's a graduate of the University of Sharjah and a member of the Abdullah Al-Ghurair Foundation's Youth Advisory Council. A very passionate learner. I know her personally, and always happy to have her bring also a youth perspective to the conversation and the transition from education to employment. So thank you all for joining us today. I think we have a really nice mix of perspectives around the table, and I'm really looking forward to engaging with you in a rich conversation. So to set the stage for this discussion, I think we've heard really interesting findings from Dr. Nina, and we want to reflect on those a little bit more. So I'd like to invite each speaker to share some insights around those findings of the study. And maybe I'll start with Dr. Lina. From your perspective, what are like 2 or 3 points that you think employers have emphasized in this study? And what's the single most important implication based on that? Dr. Lina.
Thank you, Sarah. That's a really interesting question, and it's one that came through to me very clearly from our 3 phases of research, but most particularly from the employers that we spoke to in the focus groups. And it was the one thing I think that they all mentioned and felt very strongly about was the need for a broad range of general employability skills. And maybe not even skills, but things that were more like attitudes and personal attributes. Dr. Nina has mentioned things like motivation, the confidence to keep going when you're not sure what needs to be done next, the resilience to get things a little bit wrong or not know how to do things and keep trying to do that. Those kinds of skills, I think, were the biggest lack actually that was coming through from employers. And the second one was probably communication skills. A whole range of communication skills, written and oral, and closely linked to the need for good interpersonal skills, to be able to work in teams, to be able to know when's the time that you go to your team members for help, when can you go to your managers and supervisors for help, when should you be working on your own, how do you work together, all of those kind of things, and how do you collaborate with other team members. So I think those three, the kind of general employability skills, the communication skills, and the interpersonal skills, were the ones that came through most strongly. And I think the single most important implication that came through from the employers we engaged with was that they want to see young people starting their life in the workforce ready to work independently and autonomously. And that was that kind of general preparation they were looking for.
That's very exciting to hear, Dr. Lina, and very interesting, especially now at a time where a lot of people are talking about digital skills and AI, but I see you emphasizing a lot around human skills, communication, employability skills. That continues to be very important still today. So that's something to really keep in mind. So I'd like to, with that actually in mind, I'd like to turn to Nabil, giving us kind of the flip side of that from an employer perspective. Which findings resonated most strongly with you and in your sector or the different industries, since you're working across different sectors? And why does it feel especially urgent now, Nabil?
Hi, thank you for having me, everyone. So mainly for me, what resonated in the report was more about everything that was around employability skills rather than technical skills. Okay, so the report highlights skills such as dependability, time management, attention to detail, work ethic, motivation, and sense of purpose, right? So what struck me is that these teams came up consistently across different countries and sectors. Okay, so having worked in recruitment for more than 20 years now, I see this every day. Many graduates come with the academic qualifications. Okay, the challenge is often translating that knowledge into workplace behaviors. Okay, the famous soft skills, like managing priorities, communicating effectively, taking ownership, like Dr. Lina said, adapting to feedback also, because a lot of them don't accept feedback and react strangely when it's a bit negative. Asking the right questions to move the needle, understanding professional expectations, and operating also confidently in multicultural environments. And it's the case in the region. So this matters a lot, really a lot now, because with AI and everything, a lot of things will be automated. So to make your place at work, you need to know how to communicate. And Dr. Nina talked about it. A lot of them would like to work in their office all alone, and there's no interaction with the rest of the employees. It's impossible. It doesn't work like this. So, and it's even more important now because organizations are getting leaner with everything that is automated. They are going leaner. They are moving faster. There is constant change. Okay, there's constant transformation, and the ability to integrate AI in daily work is really appreciated. And when it comes to AI literacy, there's still a lot of gaps. Whereas there's also problems when it comes to operating with managers. Again, because they have less time to coach, like Dr. Nina said, we can't coach extensively newly hired people. Okay, we can put some mentoring programs, but it needs to be limited interactions. People have work to do because the company got leaner. Okay, before it was easy to have this shadowing and having this mentor that will dedicate a lot of time, but now less and less. So what I can see from my clients, for example, that the mandates that I received to hire, employers really want, they value people who can learn quickly. Okay, it's okay that if you don't match everything that is in the JD, for example, but they need to see that you are someone that is investing in yourself. Dr. Nina talked about it, the continuous learning. We have to see this on your LinkedIn, for example, that you did some certification. At least you are eager to learn. Okay, you're not relying only on what you learned in your university. And it shows also that you move fast. You see what is happening in the market and you try to adapt. Even the micro certifications, they have weights. Okay. Yeah, that's it for now. That's what I can think of.
No, very interesting ideas, and I see there are some points of agreement also with Dr. Lina around the human skills, but also AI literacy becoming more and more important in the workforce, and always kind of looking for those skill development opportunities to continue growing professionally. I'd like to unpack those ideas a little further with Dr. Harib. Where do you see the greatest disconnect then today? Is it mainly around knowledge? Is it practical skills, behaviors, expectations? Yeah, we'd love to hear maybe one example from your institution. Yeah, please, Dr. Harib.
Okay. I prefer to speak in Arabic, so I can
أكيد تفضل.
speak comfortably.
طبعا.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. بداية أحب أشكر المركز الإقليمي واليونسكو على تنظيم هذه المحاضرة المهمة جدا للأمانة، واللي تلامس التحديات اللي احنا للأمانة نعاصرها بشكل يومي في عملنا في قضية الموائمة بين احتياجات سوق العمل ومخرجات التعليم، سواء كان التعليم الأساسي أو التعليم الجامعي. ولكن بداية أنا حاب أني أبدأ بنقطة مهمة قبل أن أتكلم عن الإجابة للسؤال. يجب أن لا نهول من الفجوة أو التحدي، لأن من قاد النهضة اليوم هم الذين تلقوا التعليم في الثمانينات والتسعينات والألفين، وكان التعليم ناجح في إعطاء المهارات والمعرفة الكافية لتحقيق النهضة اللي نعيشها اليوم. فبالتالي دائما التعليم كان قادرا وناجحا في دولنا، وبشكل خاص نحن نتحدث عن الدول الخليج العربي، كان قادرا أن يزود الكوادر الوطنية بالمهارات والمعرفة اللازمة لتحقيق التطور. ولكن من ناحية أخرى أيضا نؤمن أن هناك دائما مساحة للتطوير، هناك مساحة للتركيز على ما هو جديد من مهارات مطلوبة في سوق العمل. ودول مجلس التعاون طموحة جدا في يعني التقدم على مستوى المجتمع وعلى مستوى الصناعة وعلى القطاعات في هذه الدول. إذن لتعريف التحدي بشكل أساسي أو الفجوة، أنا أراها أن هي عبارة عن المرونة التي تستطيع مؤسسات التعليم العالي تبنيها في تحقيق أو تزويد الكوادر الوطنية أو الطلبة بالمهارات المطلوبة لسوق العمل. نحن بحاجة إلى مرونة من مؤسسات التعليم العالي في التحول السريع وتغيير وتصميم وإعادة تصميم المناهج الدراسية والخطط الدراسية في البرامج المختلفة لمواكبة التحديات أو مواكبة المهارات المطلوبة في سوق العمل. وهنا أستطيع أن أقسمها إلى قسمين، وأركز بشكل كبير على التوقعات. ممكن الدراسة الدراسة كانت تتكلم بشكل كبير عن توقعات، يعني هي كانت معظمها توقعات، وأنا أقسم هذه التوقعات إلى قسمين. القسم الأول التوقعات بين مؤسسات التعليم العالي وبين سوق العمل، والقسم الثاني توقعات الطالب أو الطالب مع سوق العمل. في الحالة الأولى وفي القسم الأول التوقعات بين مؤسسات التعليم العالي وسوق العمل، أنا من أحد مسؤولياتي اليوم هي الموائمة بين سوق العمل والجامعات، وسوف أشارككم يعني تجربتي الحقيقية في الميدان والتي تعكس نتائج هذه الدراسة. عندما أذهب لسوق العمل وأتكلم عن ما هي المهارات المطلوبة، فهم يتحدثون عن مهارات مطلوبة اليوم، ولكن ليس لديهم دراسة طويلة المدى ل10 أو 15 سنة ما هي المهارات المطلوبة للمستقبل. وعندما أذهب لمؤسسات التعليم العالي وأطلب منهم التحول وإعادة التصميم لمواكبة المهارات المطلوبة اليوم، يقولون نحن بحاجة إلى دراسة طويلة المدى لتطوير مناهجنا وإعادة التصميم، لأن الدورة الأكاديمية لتصميم أي برنامج تأخذ من 2 إلى 3 سنوات لتصميم برنامج واحد فقط، يمر بتطوير الخطة الدراسية والمنهج ومراجعة الخبراء الخارجيين والداخليين وموافقات من خلال القسم والعمادة ومجلس أمناء، ثم يطرح لمدة 4 سنوات لتخريج أول دفعة. فهي مدة طويلة. خلال هذا الوقت يحدث تغير كبير في سوق العمل، تدخل مهارات جديدة، يدخل معرفة جديدة، وهذا أيضا مما يواجهه مؤسسات التعليم العالي. إذن هناك توقعات من الطرفين بأن سوق العمل سيتلقى طلاب بالمهارات المطلوبة، ومن ناحية أخرى مؤسسات التعليم العالي تتوقع أن سوق العمل سيقدم خطة طويلة المدى ما هي المهارات المطلوبة وما هي التخصصات للمستقبل. هذه أول تحدي وأول فجوة. النقطة الثانية أيضا شملتها الدراسة، وهي توقعات الطالب وسوق العمل. سوق العمل ينظر إلى الطالب أنه سيتخرج وسيكون جاهز لبدء العمل بشكل احترافي من اليوم الأول، وفي المقابل أيضا الطالب يعتقد أن بمجرد حصوله على هذه الورقة اللي هي الشهادة الأكاديمية سيستطيع أن يلتحق بأي وظيفة، خصوصا أن دول مجلس التعاون دائما تنظر إلى تقليل نسب البطالة، فبالتالي هي تسعى دائما إلى دعم الطلبة وتوفير الوظيفة. فهناك نوع من الاطمئنان من الطلبة أن أنا سأجد الوظيفة بمجرد حصولي على الشهادة. وهنا يجب تغيير ثقافة كل من مؤسسات التعليم العالي، سوق العمل، وأيضا الطالب، وتقريب وجهات النظر ودراسة الواقع بشكل دقيق، وإشراك الجميع في عملية التطوير. هذا ما أراه بالنسبة للتحدي، هو فعليا التوقع من الأطراف المختلفة.
شكرا دكتور حارب. يعني أظن حضرتك and I'll switch between Arabic and English if that's okay. I hope the translators can keep up with me. But for framing the challenges and the disconnect really nicely with the two sides of the mismatch in expectation between labor market requirements and higher education, but also expectations of youth and learners and when they embark on their journey to access the workforce. I think this is a very important point, and maybe my friend Ahd can tell us a little bit more about that and can comment from a youth perspective. Ahd, I'd like you to tell us, when you look back at your transition from university into work, where did you feel the biggest gap? Is it in skills? Is it in confidence? Exposure to the workplace? I think we'd like to hear more about your understandings and expectations.
Sure, absolutely. So before I start, I just would like to kind of introduce myself. My name is Ahd Al-Naqbi. I'm a recent graduate of International Relations at the University of Sharjah, and I'm also an advisory council and AGF youth member. Before I start, I'd like to thank the Regional Center for Educational Planning and AGF for this opportunity. And Actually, I was surprised that you guys already know what we're struggling with. Most of the panelists and the doctors actually covered most of I wanted to say earlier. Mainly what I found was difficult or what was challenging for me, the main gap was the workplace exposure. It wasn't the AI stuff, it wasn't something related to digital. Actually, I believe us as a Gen Z and youths, we are way qualified or overqualified for AI and technical or the way we use digital computers and etc. But our main challenge come to the normal skills such as communication, adaptability, how to answer stuff, how to ask for stuff. We actually find this is difficult, and I don't think this is something to for us to be blamed for, because we have been in a many, let's say, conflicted times in the region, such as COVID-19. Many or mostly people get experienced in those skills, the communication, adaptability, how to change, how to go from a place to a second is in an area where you're from high school to university. And this area, this specific timeline was stolen from us by COVID-19, and we couldn't have the face-to-face interaction at this moment. So my first year university was actually completely online. When I came back to uni, it was actually really awkward to socialize again. And keep in mind, I'm a very social person. Like, I love to join programs, I love to get experiences, youth initiatives, and stuff. But again, for me, when I first joined the workplace, I felt that employers usually think we know stuff. We are already equipped with the workplace etiquettes. We are already know what they want from us. Like, they expect from us too much when it's our first step to the workplace. Also, one thing that I found sort of challenging is how traditional the workplace was. They still use papers, they still use Excel. I mean, there are many programs or AI platforms that we can do this in literally seconds. And you guys are taking the time into coding and writing stuff. Like, I mean, we could do it faster. So, yeah, and usually they don't accept the change really fast. They want to stick on what they already do, the traditional stuff that they do. And while it's, I can understand this, like they don't want to change stuff just because they employed youths or stuff. But I feel, again, more monitoring, and I understand coaching may be a bit costly and sort of time. Like it takes time to coach a new employer, especially if you're in need at the moment. So what happened for me in my company, they actually trained me for a month where I sit by a person that already knows the work, and then I pick up stuff. And then I slowly got into my own desk. I start working by myself. Of course, I'll be asking questions and stuff, but again, expecting too much from people that this is the first time or the first step in the workforce is not realistic, to be honest. And while I don't disagree with the fact that we lack communication skills and the very basic social skills, but again, we can still do it. It's not like something impossible for us to regain. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Ahd. This is a very refreshing point of view. I guess we can see the new generation has the confidence to step into the workforce. They think they know a thing or two about AI and tools that apparently employers are not quick enough to catch up with. But they do want to be able to feel that they had the opportunity to get this exposure into what the workplace looks like, how the processes work, and how to be better integrated, I guess, as employees or first-time employees. So this is very interesting, and I see, Nabil, that you probably have a thing or two to say about that. So I'll ask you for some reflections on this.
Yeah, so refreshing to have had a point of view, and she's right. For example, at my time when I graduated, I needed to know everything about Excel. I didn't know anything about it. We can see the same thing nowadays about Power BI. It's not even needed to visualize and interpret data now. Can use AI tools and we get everything. Okay, so she's right. And the shadowing for 1 month, it's effectively the right solution. For me, it's the best solution because they have the capabilities and the talent and they can adapt. Just show them the work. So like she said, just 1 month and it's okay. After that, she was able to do the work. Okay, but so we need to bridge this gap between universities and companies. You know, we need to ask ourselves: are we providing structured onboarding, for example? Okay, are we mentoring early career talent? Are we giving regular feedback during those first critical months? Are we setting realistic expectations also? So how do we prepare graduates better? It should also, it's not the real question. It should be how do we build stronger bridges between education and employment? Okay, because that's where I believe the real opportunity lies. For example, I'm a recruiter. When I finished my master degree here in Wollongong University in Dubai, I got the CIPD directly. Okay, I got certified directly. It's one of the things that Dr. Nina talked about. When you graduate, you get the certification. But they never told me and taught me how to use LinkedIn Recruiter, how to do the choice between candidates and things like that. And I really need, like I had 1 month. 1 month, I can learn everything. It's not something that I can't learn. Now, the thing is, like she said, they are using papers. Uh, Now, the challenge is also about the hiring managers. They need to unlearn old ways of doing work.
Right.
Hiring managers have their responsibility too. It's not just the freshers and fresh graduates.
Right. It's a mindset as well, and traditional practices that will change and need to change. And I really like your emphasis on bridging the gap between education and employment. And I think this is what this is one of the areas of interest for us as a foundation, and a big focus for us is really creating those pathways between education and employment. Because, like Dr. Harib also mentioned, realistically, higher education institutions um, are not quick enough to adapt to the labor market requirements. So you always need that kind of bridge in between education and employment to be able to provide those maybe programs that can link and can really lead that transition in a smoother way. And I think these are essentially some of our the design of our programs, the learning to earning programs, to really kind of bring those skills closer to graduates before they actually go on to their first job, so that they don't find this mismatch in terms of expectation on what the workplace will look like, how I will be integrated within the space, what to expect. And I think there is a role for organizations like AGF to play in that sense, because until higher education institutions are able to integrate some of those aspects and elements into the curriculum, that support is very much needed still by learners and youth. Dr. Nina, I see that you have some
Yeah.
ideas on that as well.
I
before
just
we
have
move
a
to round
very
two.
I
Please.
just have a very quick clarification point, maybe. I love what Ahad said, I mean, in terms of the new generation being much faster than us when it comes to certain technologies. And Nabil also, he emphasized this, and they are both right. I just want to say that in the study, when we said that the employers were finding maybe weakness, let's say, in some of the digital or the technology skills, mainly they were referring to technology that is very specific to the field. So it's not like general technology. So some of them mentioned, for instance, engineers said, we are getting graduates who don't know how to use AutoCAD, and that should be like a given. That should be like a language that they already come and they know. And this is where, the problem is. But I mean, and what Ahmed said, she was really highlighting a problem that the study found, that the universities are not being fast enough or quick enough in adapting to the new technologies or integrating the new technologies like AI. Now we are all struggling in universities because of AI. We're all trying to figure it out still. You talk to people from all over the world, we have very similar challenges. How, to assess differently, how to be more creative, what to do, how to ensure academic integrity. So we are not as fast as the technology in the universities. But, the technology specifically that the new generation maybe does not have or is a little bit weakened, and we don't want to generalize, they meant by it field-specific technologies. So that's all I wanted to clarify.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah.
Okay.
Even the core professional skills and the tech skills that are required with that. No, that's very useful. Thank you, Dr. Lina. And I think you gave us a nice segue to the second round of our discussion. We had common themes in this first round emerging around expectations, skills alignment between education and employment, the pace of change in the labor market. But I like to build on those insights and look ahead and reflect on how AI, digitalization, and technology are changing really the early career pathways for youth. So you gave us a nice segue, Dr. Nina, when you're saying we're still all struggling to figure out what that means really for young graduates. Are early career professionals getting eliminated from the labor market? How are we all coping with that kind of transition and transformation? So let me maybe start with you, Nabil, and to tell us a bit more from an employer perspective, as we're seeing AI and digitalization reshaping a lot of sectors within the workforce. How do you see entry-level roles changing over the next 3 to 5 years? And what would be the expectation then around early career talent? What does their future look like in that case?
So yeah, AI changed everything. Even my work, I had to stack now AI tools for my recruitment activity, for example. Before I had only LinkedIn Recruiter, now I have 5 tools. Okay, even to run the interviews and evaluate people and do the psychological tests and things like that. So yeah, AI is present everywhere. By the way, Dr. Nina, you talked about AutoCAD, but AutoCAD is also a tool of the past. This is why some businesses need to unlearn what they are doing and using new tools. So yeah, I don't think entry-level roles will disappear, okay, over the next 3 to 5 years. But I do think they will look different, okay? Traditionally, the many graduates, we were asking them to do I don't know if we can call them tasks anymore. 20 years ago, it was my case, gathering information, preparing reports, drafting communications, compiling data, things like that, scheduling activities. Not very gratifying, a very gratifying job, following established processes and things like that. Now, increasingly, AI can support or automate those activities. So I think the expectation for early career talents will shift from simply executing tasks to exercise judgment. And they will have to do it much earlier in their career. Okay. Dr. Nina also talked about STEM against STEAM, and the A is really important. Arts is really important because you get an idea about, you have a bigger spectrum. You can analyze differently. So yeah, in other words, employers won't just ask you, can you produce the report? They will ask, can you interpret the report? Can you identify what matters for the business? Can you challenge assumptions? Can you connect the dots? Can you use these tools responsibly? Something happened, I think 1 month ago in Dubai. Someone talked about one company getting listed, and he asked ChatGPT about it, and everyone knew it, and the company lost 50 million AED. So there is a lot of risks
Yeah, of
when you
course.
use these tools. Okay.
Yeah.
Can you communicate recommendations also effectively? So for
Yeah.
the freshers and the new graduates, the capability, I believe, is becoming most important, and basically the soft skills. Because the hard skills, I had talked about it. Okay, you're better at it, but do you really know how to use them? It's
Of
not
course.
just having the technical capability. It's about also using them in a smart way.
Yeah, so good
Okay.
news for, I guess, entry-level roles. They're not disappearing, but I guess what is important is how to maybe know how to use AI responsibly and using your sense of judgment and bringing in your critical thinking into the workspace as well,
Exactly.
so that you
But it's
can
so, but
continue to
not
do your role
everyone,
effectively.
not everyone is good with AI tools, and it's a
True.
sign also of learning agility. Okay.
Right.
So
Yeah.
the Dr. Nina's report talked about adaptability a lot, and I think that's exactly right. Graduates won't succeed because they know one platform or one piece of software. Okay,
True.
they will succeed because they are curious, comfortable with change, and it's their best chance. Okay.
Yeah.
They're young, fresh mind, it's their best chance. They're comfortable with change, they are eager to learn new tools, to be exposed to them. They will not have the same resistance as older professionals. They are willing to experiment, they are able to continuously learn. This generation, the Gen Z, they believe in continuous learning.
Yeah. We've
And
we've heard that also kind
yeah,
of pledge to that. So that's absolutely right. And maybe I like to bring in Dr. Harib into that conversation to hear his perspective as well. Like now we understand AI is important. What is one meaningful change, Dr. Harib, you think in your institution that needs to be made in response to this growing importance of AI? Data literacy, digital literacy, critical thinking. How do you prepare students better for that shift, Dr. Harry?
ممتاز. في الحقيقة أنا أحاول أني أدمج عدة أشياء ذكرت من خلال زملائي في الحلقة الجلسة النقاشية. منها تكلموا على المهارات السوفت سكيلز، تكلمنا عن الاي اي وشكل تحدي مثل ما قالت الدكتورة نينا، تحدي لأعضاء التدريس. ايش طرق التدريس الجديدة اللي ممكن احنا نطرحها في ظل وجود الاي اي وحصول الطالب على الأجوبة بكل سهولة والتقارير والعروض التقديمية. ايضا مثل ما ذكر الأخ نبيل عن المهارات المطلوبة وكيف احنا نقدر ان احنا نعززها لدى الطلبة خلال الفترة الجامعية. انا اعتقد ان افضل طريقة هي ليس اعادة تصميم البرامج الأكاديمية، ولكن زيادة الجرعة العملية والمهارات في المناهج الدراسية. الرجوع للخطط الدراسية لن يكون حل. مثل ما ذكرت العملية طويلة وإعادة التصميم ستأخذ وقت طويل، وستظهر في المستقبل مهارات جديدة وتخصصات جديدة ونعيد الكرة من جديد. أنا أعتقد هي فقط المرونة في زيادة الجرعة في الجانب العملي والتدريبي، بالإضافة إلى أن يكون هناك ما يسمى بجواز المهارات، السكيلز باسبورت. لكل مرحلة من مراحل التعلم لدى الطلبة يجب أن يكون هناك مجموعة من المهارات التي يجب تعلمها خلال فترة مراحل الدراسية للطالب منذ الابتدائي إلى الجامعة. كما ذكرت الطالبة معنا في الجلسة، هناك مهارات السوفت سكيلز مهمة أيضا جدا، وهذه لن تأتي بمجرد أن يخوض الطالب دورة أو دورتين أو ثلاث. هي مهارات يجب زرعها وتغيير ثقافتها منذ الطفولة وخلال فترات مراحل الدراسة، منها إلى التفكير النقدي والعمل الجماعي والذكاء العاطفي والذكاء المالي والمرونة والقدرة على التكيف وغيرها من المهارات التي يجب مراعاتها من المراحل العمرية والفئات السنية المبكرة. هذا من جانب. من جانب آخر تكلمنا عن قضية كيف نستطيع أن نزيد من الجرعة العملية. الآن نقوم بتصميم برنامج جديد لطلاب الجامعة، بحيث يجب على الطالب أن ينهي ما لا يقل عن 8 دورات خلال فترة دراسية 4 سنوات، 4 دورات تخصصية في مجال التخصص الذي يدرسه، و4 دورات في السوفت سكيلز، بحيث ينتهي من المرحلة الجامعية ليس لديه فقط الشهادة الأكاديمية، ولكن أيضا لديه سيرة مهنية تضم مجموع من الدورات في التخصص وفي المهارات الناعمة مثل ما ذكرت. هذا سيساعد بشكل كبير. أيضا زيادة جرعة التدريب الميداني، بحيث لا يكون فقط في الربع الأخير أو الفصل الأخير من الدراسة، بل يكون من بداية الدراسة خلال فترات الصيف، خلال فترة الدراسة كاملة البرنامج 4 سنوات بالتعاون مع سوق العمل والصناعة. أيضا من التطبيقات التي قامت بها دولة قطر أنه يمكن الآن التوظيف الطالب في منصة كوادر من بداية الدراسة. الآن الوظائف متاحة في منصة كوادر للطلبة في الجامعة، بحيث يستطيع أن يأخذ وظيفة بارت تايم في الميدان وينضم إلى سوق العمل وهو يدرس، وسيراعى طبعا في هذا الأمر الخطة الدراسية والمحاضرات، بحيث يطلع ويكون ملم بطبيعة سوق العمل وطبيعة المهن، وأيضا نقلل حجم التوقعات ما بين سوق العمل وبين الطلبة. هذه أيضا من الأمور التي طرحناها، بالإضافة إلى الشراكات مع شركات كبيرة التي تأخذ عقود مليارية من الدولة مثل مايكروسوفت وغيرها من الشركات، بأن تحتضن الطلبة المتفوقين لأخذ دورة انترنشيب لمدة 6 شهور إلى سنة في الشركات هذه خلال الدراسة أو بعد التخرج بشكل أساسي. وهناك الكثير من المبادرات التي قمنا بها لتقليل الفجوة ولسد الفجوة ولزيادة المهارات. أيضا من أحد النقاط التي ذكرت وهي ريادة الأعمال. اليوم الطلاب يدخلون إلى الجامعة ولديهم ثقافة أنني سأحصل على الشهادة الأكاديمية للتوظيف. نريد أن نغير هذه الثقافة. أنت يجب أن تستغل 4 سنوات، ممكن أن ننمي خلال ال4 سنوات هذه ثقافة ريادة الأعمال، وأن تكون رائد أعمال، تخلق فرصتك الوظيفية بنفسك، بأن يكون لك شركة ناشئة تديرها بنفسك وتكون مصدر دخل لك في المستقبل. هناك العديد من المبادرات في الحقيقة التي ممكن من خلالها سد الفجوات، بعيدا عن إعادة تصميم البرامج ولوم الجامعات أو لوم سوق العمل. نستطيع أن نحسن من الخطط الدراسية. هذا ما أظنه. أيضا بما يخص ال AI، أنا أيضا أدرس في الجامعة، وبدلا من أن أحارب ال AI أسخر ال AI لقضايا تنفع الطالب، بمعنى أن أزيد جرعة المشاريع العملية. ال AI لن يستطيع أن يدخل إلى المشاريع العملية، فبالتالي أزيد من جرعة المشاريع العملية وأستغل سهولة حصول المعرفة من خلال ال AI.
لا تمام، يعني أظن شكرا على المداخلة دي دكتور حارب. يعني أظن في المقدمة، يعني إن أنتم في المقدمة الصراحة لكذا مبادرة ليها صدى قوي الصراحة in that element. يعني أظن some of the, maybe I'll switch again also to English, some of the really interesting ideas around skill passport. Even إحنا as a foundation we have adopted that within our learning to earning model to and I fully agree that sometimes redesigning programs is not the best way forward, but talking about stackable skills, adding and bringing in industry relevant skills to higher education can sometimes be a more agile way of moving forward. So I totally see how you are innovating in that space as well, Dr. Harib. Thank you for those thoughts. I have to mention that we're running a bit over time, so maybe I'll ask, and because this is a rich discussion, we can probably spend more than 3 more hours talking about this. But maybe Ahd, if you can briefly tell us also what future-facing skills do young people most want access to today? You as a young graduate, what are some of the AI tools or internship opportunities were you hoping to have access to more and more?
Sure, absolutely. First, I want to thank Dr. Harib because he did mention something really interesting about lowering the expectation of students to their profession. Because like most students think that receiving the university certificate or the diploma is technically or automatically gonna lead them into the job market. However, they were shocked that with the time they receive their certificate, actually there's thousands of students that also receiving their certificate at the same time. But what differs each student, it's the skills that they have, the past experience they have. And one thing I want to mention that please, no more workshops. I don't think workshops are the the more innovative tool to use for us today. I think there are many places that we need to sort of advance or get our experiences better. One thing I wished I had is a practical experience. I actually got a part-time job, as Dr. Harab mentioned. I also got a part-time job while I was in uni, and I think this was like maybe one of the best stuff that I ever did to sort of tiptoes in the workforce environment and see how things, and I can certainly imagine how my dream job gonna be in the future. Um, Again, I do believe that we need more of a practical something to do rather than to see or to look. Instead of sitting and taking notes and hearing someone talk, maybe more of an internship, but something that's more voluntary. So we don't feel pressure that we have to do it. If we did not do it, we will not be graduating. I feel this causes a pressure, even if it was something we know that's going to benefit us. And I'm speaking about, or I'm speaking on behalf of all the youths, and I'm not speaking about a person or about a person or like a second. Like generally, I believe that we need to get a hand-on experience. I believe our parents or the past generations in schools, they had like sewing classes, cooking classes. They have like during classes they have stuff to do, and it was actually really amazing. I was amazed when my mother told me that, oh, why we don't have it today, and all we have is like, oh, especially in during our school time, sorry, from like grade 1 to grade 12, sit, listen to the teacher, take your exam,
Yeah.
receive your diploma. That's it. I understand there is programs. I believe one also with Abdullah Al-Ghrair that sort of employing them, but like for just a week. And they actually do receive some sort of allowance, like a very little one, but like it's really nice when you're young and you receive an allowance. But again, I also believe in we need more practical stuff. We're missing the soft skills and we need the practical. We're done with the academic. We're actually overqualified with academic. We have lots of academic knowledge, but where should we put it? This is the thing.
Yeah. Applying skills, you really need that opportunity for like having this exposure, having that the opportunity to really apply the skills and that you've learned throughout your academic years. Finally, Dr. Lina, if you can also maybe share with us your thoughts on the skills that are becoming more essential across sectors such as technology advances, and what are some of those skills that are required and less so required today, maybe? And after that round, I think we'll take a few more questions from the Q&A section. Please, Dr. Lina.
Thanks, Sarah. Really, in the interest of saving a bit of time, I'll try and be brief, because I think if everything that the employers in our study told us has already been mentioned in our discussion. That essentially it's easy to think that with so much technology available for our use now, that the set of skills in knowing how to use that is the one that's needed, but it's not that at all. Technology, as Ahad and others have told us, can do so many things for us. The kinds of tasks that Nabil mentioned, that you might call this sort of drudge tasks of work, the things that are fairly basic but they're time consuming, and those of us who are not very technologically literate have to take a long time to do, with data, with practical things and so on. So employers are not looking for graduates to have those skills, because they know that technological advance will increasingly take over those more basic tasks, as long as those technologies are available in the workplace. And of course, they're not available in every workplace. So the emphasis is on the human skills. It's the interpersonal skills, it's the communication, it's the ability to work in teams, and absolutely crucially, as I think every speaker has said, it's about the critical thinking and the judgment to know that when you are using technology, you can manage how you are using it, and you can judge its outputs, and you can apply your analysis to those outputs to work out what's appropriate for your situation, what might even not be accurate in your situation, and you can use it with knowledge and critical thinking, and not use it unquestioningly, if you like. And that human judgment, I think, is the absolutely key thing. And to come back to all the discussions about soft skills, I think those were mentioned to us as the kind of way to help prepare all of us as learners, as lifelong learners, for the continual change that we will see in our workplaces. It's not about learning any individual thing. It's about learning to learn. It's about learning to be flexible and to be able to adapt. And I think that's the key thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. I wish we had more time to discuss some other themes that we had in mind, but I do also want to acknowledge everyone attending this panel. We saw a great interest in terms of questions coming to panelists. In the interest of time, I think I'll maybe ask one question for everyone. There were a few more other questions. If we have time, we could maybe stay for just 10 more minutes. But maybe in 1 minute, to all the panelists, one of the questions that came in the Q&A, I wonder if this is the skill gap or an expectation gap. And I think this kind of really puts or frames our discussion very nicely. We heard from youth, we heard from Dr. Harib on higher education, we heard from employers. It's really kind of that tension. Is it really, are we talking really about skills gaps, or is it merely just different expectations that have not been met? And then how can we really kind of bring those two together, making sure that we create better alignment within the ecosystem? Maybe just from each speaker, if you can, in 1 minute, give us your reflections on that. I'll start with Dr. Harib, please.
شكرا. بالنسبة لي أنا أقول الاثنين، هي فجوة مهارات بسبب التوقعات. هي فعلا بسبب التوقعات المختلفة وجدت الفجوة، ومتى ما تقاربت التوقعات ستسد هذه الفجوة. اليوم الأدوات متوفرة، مثل ما تفضلت ابنتنا، الكوادر والطلبة عندهم مهارات في سرعة التعلم، لديهم قدرة في تعلم أي مهارة، لديهم قدرة في التعامل مع جميع البيئات وجميع جميع الظروف. إذا البيئة متوفرة، المهارات متوفرة، القدرات متوفرة. إذا ما نحتاجه فعلا تقارب وجهات النظر، ما هو مطلوب فعليا، والخطط المستقبلية لسوق العمل، وما هو متاح اليوم في مؤسسات التعليم العالي، والطلبة جاهزون بقدراتهم ومهاراتهم.
تمام. Very good. Thank you, Dr. حارب. Nabil, what do you think?
Both, me too. Both, it's expectations, and there is a problem of skills. We need to bridge this gap, and I'm sorry to say it, but companies and universities have to work together hand in hand to analyze them, to address them, and find a way to make the young graduates better prepared. Like I said, I went through it and never understood why my university didn't prepare me to do my job. They educated me, but they didn't prepare me to do my job. And also, when it comes to the young graduates, there's a lot of expectations. It was about the salary and how they will be treated in the workplace and things like that. But yeah, they need to focus on their soft skills. Soft skills will be prevalent now, since everything will be automated and they will start using AI and tools like this automation. By the way, some of the AI tools, like a part of the AI tools will the agentic AI tool will tend to disappear in 2027. It's because we will get more than agents. Okay, so really the soft skills and interpersonal skills, they need to have them, and there's no other way than being prepared since the university. For example, opticians, they had training to do sales during their studies. So they develop this interpersonal skills, and they know how to sell. And it's the same thing for the young people. They need to develop their LinkedIn. They don't have activity on LinkedIn, so then they're invisible for recruiters, okay? And they have to work on their interpersonal skills.
Thank you, Nabil. I think we have 2 votes for, we have skill gaps and we have expectation gaps. I feel Nabil emphasized skill gaps to some extent. Dr. Lina, what do you think? And if we are talking about skill gaps, maybe I'll try to link in another question that came in the chat. How can we assess some of those skill gaps? But also in 1 minute, Dr. Lina, please.
Oh, 1 minute. That's a tough one. I would also say it's both. There are skills gaps, but there are expectation gaps on both sides. I think employers sometimes have unrealistic expectations of graduates, but graduates also have sometimes unrealistic expectations of what the workforce workplace will be like. And I think if I can throw in another word, maybe the gap is about experience. Because neither really has had experience of the other, and Ahab and others have mentioned a possible way around that is to have some practical hands-on learning experiences, whether those preferably in a real workplace, whether that's through a work placement or some kind of internship or some kind of joint project or whatever, but something that actually helps the young people during their education to actually have experiences of applying their skills and knowledge in a live workplace. I think that experience gap is maybe the one that I would point to.
Nicely added there. Experience gap. We're adding gaps. Ahd, maybe you can tell us also your perspective, and I would actually ask you, what would you do in that case? Like, how would you overcome the gaps that you see as problematic within that debate?
Sure. So I actually kind of agree with Dr. Lina. I believe expectation gaps is kind of more realistically measured than the skill gaps. I believe every human have some certain of common skills. Like everyone will have a common skill. Like there is just one common skill that we must all have. But when it comes to expectations, it differs from everyone. Especially like every majored student will have different expectation. If it regards salary, working hours, business major is different than engineering major. Perhaps people in nursing, they're expecting to work shifts. However, me as an IR, I don't expect me to work as shifts, like night shift or etc. What I see is like expectations is something normal, whether it was excessive or whether it was lower than it should have been. However, we need to look at the real workforce or the real outcome that will be coming to us at the end. So yeah, I guess this is my answer for now. It's that expectation gap is way huger than the skills gap. Yeah, from both sides, like from the employer side and also from the recent graduate or the person who's looking for a job side.
Well, thank you all for your insights and perspectives on this today. I wish we had more time to discuss this. We did extend the time a little bit more to take at least a few questions from the Q&A. I think what stands out from this discussion is as we mentioned, skill gaps, expectation gaps, experience gaps has been also added. But how this is essentially also a shared responsibility. I think us coming together in a panel, trying to understand the different dynamics and the different understandings from the stakeholders within the ecosystem. This in itself is very useful, is very beneficial. But for us to also understand that for this to change and for us to lead that transition, each one in that bucket has a role to play and has something to change within their organization to be able to keep up with the evolving trends within the labor market. So I hope we have unpacked some of those themes and points in our panel. I hope that it not only highlighted the challenges, but also inspired new ideas and collaboration opportunities that can really help to strengthen the pathway from education to employment across the GCC. I thank you, everyone, for staying a bit longer than we should have. But thank you very much for your engagement, even in the chat. And with that, I think I'll hand it over to you back, Nora. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for moderating this panel. Thank you to all our speakers. Really valuable insights here today. Please do find the report on our website, and a copy of this seminar is going to be available on our YouTube channel. If you just search Recipe UNESCO, you'll find all our social media. It's all the same name. And we will be sending out also certificates of attendance to everyone that was here. So thank you so much, everybody, and have a lovely rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Salam.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.